I am visiting where Doctor Monty, aka John Dee, died. This is a crazy follow-up to my impossible Easter egg video. So yeah, we're going to be visiting the place where this guy died. And it's absolutely insane because I live literally within walking distance. And I've only lived here for about a year. I lived completely far away pretty much through the majority of my life. So literally, if I didn't discover this now, if I discovered this pretty much any other point in my life, I would have completely been miles away. So I just figured because I'm so close, I have to visit the very place. And we have the Thames behind me as well. The very river that froze over when John Dee seemingly became immortal and then rose to God of the Keepers above creation. So yeah, I even bought this book. I haven't read it yet, but I will get to reading the full life of him very soon. Obviously, I did a lot of research for the video, but I didn't get a chance to properly understand his entire life.
That all works out perfectly.
In 1592, the mathematician, philosopher, and occultist to Queen Elizabeth I, the Dr. John Dee conducted a series of experiments in which he was surprised to discover a continuing series of small disturbances, or ripples in the fabric of the ether, the mysterious and encompassing medium in which the earth and the heavens hung. Although there's no way he could have known it at the time, these were the echoes of the first teleportation systems being used at Theresa, whose energy was propagating in time as well as in space. Determined to discover their source, he embarked on a series of experiments to monitor the ether with ever-increasing accuracy. Soon he would devise an apparatus of such incredible sensitivity, his ethereoscope, that would allow him to divine the subtlest of vibrations, some of which, when the device was connected to a cone for moving the air, would sound like human voices. He determined two names that were repeated over and over again, which he interpreted as Sem and Richtovar. He began to understand that the ether was a source of power that these mysterious entities were drawing sustenance from. To what ends, he could not be sure. As 1599 gave way to 1600, the etheric bow wave created by the vril-infused destruction of the earth ripped through the equipment in his laboratory, allowing etheric energy to push through the veil between worlds. The corpses he was dissecting in order to discover the function of their anatomy were raised as zombies. Zombies who spoke the words that he had been hearing before the Royal Guard were able to put them down.
Okay, so I just got here and you're never going to believe this. The time is literally dead on 1:15. Now it's because of the angle it's a bit difficult to see on the clock, it's just slightly off, but on my phone it literally says 1:15, and that's just one of literally like a million weird coincidences that have happened whilst making this video, and it's just complete random luck. There's just so many weird things that have happened. So I'm basically just going to talk you through the production of this video, all of the weird things that happened whilst we explore this beautiful place, and as well as find where John Dee is, which I actually want to talk about once I get there. But yeah, it's a very beautiful place, as you can see, and I will have a little glance inside as well. I'm not even exactly sure where his pillar is, so we're just going to have to look and see if I can find it. I've seen a picture of it online, obviously, but I don't know precisely where it is. But yeah, graves are just kind of morbidly beautiful. They're always lovely places and they're great for wildlife. It's a bit loud here since it's right next to a school, but yeah, let me see. There's a lot of Johns I've noticed. I've literally been looking past the graves and I've seen so many Johns. I guess it was, or even still is, quite a common name in England, but it was especially common, I think, back when John Dee was around. But yeah, as you can see, it's a very beautiful place. Now, this video is very different to the usual content that I do on the channel, obviously. So I apologize if it's a little bit scuffed. Look, there's another John here. Almost every single grave I've looked at has been a guy called John. But yeah, honestly, making that impossible Easter egg video has been the most fun I've ever had making a video ever. Apologies, there's some drilling in the background. You know, I've been making zombies content for over 10 years now, which is wild to even say. And because of that, you know, it's hard for me to get really pumped up and excited about a video because I've done it so many times. But making this video was just so different. I had so much fun and I was so excited to post it. I had lots of technical errors whilst making it, but even then, it was all completely worth it. And yeah, it was so fun to make. So I'm kind of just stumbling along the place here, trying to find where exactly it is. It's got to be around here somewhere, I would assume. Okay, so I figured out what the confusion was. I already knew this, but basically John Dee does not have an official gravestone here. It's been missing. In fact, they don't even have records of his death, which actually ties completely into the zombies lore that I talked about in that impossible Easter egg video, which, by the way, if you're completely confused by this video, check that out. There will be a link in the description. That will completely blow your mind. One of the best videos I have ever made. But basically, it seems like Dr. Monty was never always a keeper. He used to be a human in the very first cycle before ripples through the ether caused by Richtofen experimenting with teleportation for the very first time at Der Riese fractured the universe. At that point, he started communicating with angels with his best friend Edward Kelly, who I believe is the inspiration for the Shadow Man. And essentially, I think that Edward Kelly was then taken by the corrupted keepers before they then went on to become the Apothecans, and he poisoned himself to basically kill himself and enter the Dark Ether and join their legion. And I think in response to that, what happened was the keepers needed his best friend to join them in their armies, and so recruited John Dee, who then went on to become Doctor Monty. And he was communicating with angels. I think when the universe is fractured, the Thames completely froze over because his death date, which is not the official one, but the one in the game canon, is when the Thames completely froze over, which I think was when the universe fractured. Similar to when time freezes in the Giants intro. And the thing is, they literally don't even have an official gravestone. They have a plaque for him inside the church itself, which I'll go into in a second once I'm done recording this, but they have no official record of his death. They don't have the certificate, they don't have the actual gravestone. Obviously, records were a lot looser back then, so it makes sense, and it was such a long time ago. He was an occultist to Queen Elizabeth I, and he's supposedly buried here in St. Virgin Mary's Church, which is exactly where I am. But no one knows where he is. He could be under any piece of this dirt here. No one actually knows, and that's because he became Monty, I guess. And that, I think, ties perfectly into the zombie storyline. And basically, I believe that him and Edward Kelly were communicating with angels, which probably either were just the regular keepers or in fact the corrupted keepers, and he didn't know it. Or maybe they were communicating with both, and then each side basically fell out, probably because Edward Kelly was communicating with the corrupted ones, and he ended up falling out with John Dee, eventually ended up dying in prison, which I believe is when the Apothecans basically lured him in, and he joined them as their leader. Now, I want to talk about all of the weird coincidences whilst making this video, whilst I'm here. So basically, this video completely should have not happened. It literally is impossible. The fact that this happened, there are so many weird coincidences whilst making it that if literally one slight thing happened differently, the video would have not been made. So first of all, regarding the part 1 of the video, Cod Lawfax contacted me and he let me know, obviously there's been a massive hard drive leak for Call of Duty recently, and he found a document talking about the ranking system for Black Ops 3 Zombies and about a guy called John Dee, who was described as a man of shadows, who didn't actually die. He was believed to die in the real world, but he actually ascended to become immortal when the Thames froze. And I believe that is because he is Dr. Monty. And initially, when I was talking with him about this, I was like, yeah, we can do a video just talking about the potential inspirations for Dr. Monty. That would be a cool video. And we started working on that. And then, somewhere along the lines, I remembered, wait a second. Glitch and Queen posted a video about 6 months ago talking about all of these random books scattered around the Eisendrache that seem to form a cipher, and it's a John Dee cipher, which are extremely hard to crack. John Dee was into cryptography, and he has very quirky ciphers, and we think that this is the impossible Easter egg because it matches all of Jason Blundell's clues, saying that it's scattered across arenas. These books are scattered across the Eisendrache. He said that it would be locked in a vault for 8 years, and guess what? The main John Dee book is found within Gross Vault on the map, and it's been 8 years since he posted that interview, which I think is a coincidence, but that's just one of the many coincidences whilst making it. So then we were like, wait a second, I think this is the impossible Easter egg. So I started working on part 1 saying, maybe this is the impossible Easter egg, and if we solve this book's ciphers, it's going to reveal, or at least heavily imply, that Dr. Monty is in fact John Dee. But then whilst we were making part 1, we quickly started stumbling along way more clues inside alongside Black Ops 3 Zombies itself that pretty much outright confirm that John Dee is Monty. Now, I go over all of that evidence in that video, but it was wild whilst we were figuring it out, such as his coat of arms being red with the lion emblem, just like the Gobblegum machine. Monty reads a passage from The Tempest by Shakespeare, which many people believe is in fact based on John Dee. In fact, there's theories that Shakespeare is in fact John Dee himself, or at least John Dee was his ghostwriter, and those theories have floated about for ages, and I'm sure Jason Blundell and Craig Houston and the other writers probably saw those theories and they thought, wait, we can do this in the game itself. Let's run with this theory and let's say the main character, the god of the game, is actually John Dee, similar to how people think Shakespeare is John Dee, or at least he was writing his works. And that's a really, really interesting concept. So basically we started stumbling along a million different inklings in the game that seemed to point towards Monty being John Dee, and we realized, yeah, this probably is the impossible Easter egg that Jason was on about, and we basically just figured it out before actually solving the cipher, because Jason Blundell also said that once we start solving all of the hard revelation ciphers, when there's literally 10 unsolved, and it's been almost 10 years now, that clues will start to appear in game, and I believe all of those clues are pointing towards Monty being John Dee. And I think when we solve the revelation ciphers, they're going to give way more details about how Monty became a god and immortal itself, as well as the Shadow Man joined the Apothecans. I think it would give more details about that. I think we just sort of solved the clues first, which is very, very interesting. But yeah, I absolutely was mind blown whilst discovering all of this stuff. Absolutely wild stuff. And in fact, since posting the initial video, so many more clues have been found by the community, because obviously the video at this point in time has 100,000 views, so way more eyes have gotten on it. So people have started scraping through Black Ops 3 and even older games, and they found way more clues. So I'm actually going to have a follow-up video soon going over way more evidence for this, as well as how the KN-44 may be tying into the John Dee books, as well as how it may not be. I have evidence for and against. That could literally just be nothing. It's really hard to say right now. So yeah, I'm gonna have that video coming out, and then I'm gonna make the other video, which will be part 4 now, about the early cycles of COD Zombies. So basically I'm turning this into a whole series. I didn't really mean for it to be the case. Anyways, I'm rambling a bit now. There has been so many weird things whilst making the video. So basically we started discovering all of these clues. We wrote a huge document, like a massive script. The video is 115 minutes long, which I'll come on to in a second. And yeah, it took a lot of effort to put together that script. Anyways, eventually we finished the script and I got to recording it. Then after I finished recording, the audio was literally corrupted. And I was like, what the hell? I just spent all of this time. It took me, a few hours recording all of that, and then it all corrupted. Now, luckily, it took me a few hours working with COD Law Facts, and we managed to fix the audio, but it completely wasted loads of my time. There were still some errors in it. We managed to fix it, but I had to re-record some segments. So yeah, immediately it was as if there was some sort of higher power trying to stop me from releasing the video, but it only got worse and worse. So after I had recorded it and it corrupted, I managed to restore it. Then suddenly, my hard drive corrupted, one of my hard drives, and literally a week before I had started working on this video, I had said to another person whose hard drive corrupted, I don't want to jinx it, but I've never had a hard drive corrupt, and that's pretty impressive considering I've been making content for so long. And literally then a week later, my hard drive corrupted, so I've lost loads of files and stuff like that, but I removed the hard drive from my computer because it was basically leaching into my PC and causing it to lag so much. So yeah, my PC was having loads of problems for a couple of days. After I removed it, then it didn't seem to be a hard drive issue, but loads of files just randomly started disappearing from one of my hard drives. And in fact, I recorded a whole separate commentary, the Shadowsmiths one that I recently posted, and the file just disappeared from my PC. I finished editing the audio, I saved it. Not just that, the project file disappeared, as well as the audio file that I just exported. They both vanished. So then I ended up having to re-record it like a week later and edit it all over again. It was just such a hassle. So that was one weird thing that happened. And then I was just having so many technical issues and problems. And then I eventually got to editing the video, and it's so long, I grinded it out pretty much in a couple of days. And literally, the second the video was done editing, Jason Blundell mysteriously appears out of nowhere and releases a new interview. And we have not heard from him in a long, long time. So what are the odds that literally the very second I finish, he posts this interview? Well, not him himself, but you know what I mean. The interview gets released, literally the mere second, and not only that, he mentions the impossible Easter egg in the video. So yeah, I have to then insert a clip from that interview where he's mentioning the impossible Easter egg at the start to help hook viewers. And I noticed before I actually inserted that, the video is coincidentally 1 hour and 15 minutes long by mere luck. I never intended that to be the case, that is pure coincidence. And then I inserted the Jason Blundell clip at the start, and I just had to adjust a couple things because it messed up the timeline. So it changed the length essentially. And when it changed the length, it not only was 1 hour 15 minutes long, but backwards it spelled 935. Literally the two most important numbers in Zombies history, coincidentally, was what the video's length was. And I didn't even realize this. I just tweeted a screenshot when I eventually got to uploading it unlisted. And someone on Twitter, which I can't remember their name, I apologize, but noticed that it was 935 backwards as well. What are the odds of that? That is absolutely wild. But anyways, before I actually rendered the video, I went to try and render it, and for some reason it was saying it was taking over 8 hours to render, which is not normal at all. I know it's over an hour long, but it should not be taking that long. And I restarted my computer, I tried rendering other video files, and everything was rendering normal speed, but for some reason this project was just taking a million years to render. So yeah, I then tried rendering it and it crashed like 3 times. So I wasted pretty much a few days trying to render it, and it just kept crashing. It felt like everything in the world was trying to stop this video from getting out. Like John Dee was haunting me and trying to stop this information from getting out. But eventually I managed to get it rendered, and then I was going to post it, and then I started watching the video just to make sure everything's okay, and I realized I made a really stupid mistake. So then I basically had to fix that mistake and render it all over again. And yeah, then that took a whole other day to render, and eventually I got it done. There was one slight minor mistake in the video, but I just decided to leave it because it wasn't worth rendering it all again when it was taking that long. And I don't know why it was taking that long. Still to this day I haven't figured it out. I don't know why it was taking so long, but eventually I got it out, and then people seem to be loving the video. Everyone in the comments is saying, you know, it's one of the best Zombies videos they've seen, one of the best videos I've made, and personally I definitely think it's one of the best videos I've made. I got so excited making that, and you know, when we've heard of the impossible Easter egg from Jason Blundell, I always thought it was going to be a nothing burger. It was just going to be some sort of simple message in the game that wouldn't really tell us much, you know, and maybe a message from Treyarch thanking us for solving this thing, or maybe it would give us a slight bit of new story information, but not that crazy. But no, this actually completely changes the zombie storyline and its origins entirely. It means Monty and the Shadow Man were probably not always apothecons/keepers. They were once humans, and the zombie storyline really begins thanks to Group 935 and thanks to Richtofen teleporting the walnut at Der Riese. That's really what sparked everything, and that changes the origins of the zombie story completely. And I've seen a few people in the comments saying this changes nothing, this isn't a big deal, this can't be the impossible Easter egg. I really do think it is, even regardless of the evidence I discussed earlier. The fact this completely changes the foundations of what Zombies is and how it began, it has to be the impossible Easter egg. Not only that, but Der Riese was Jason Blundell's very first Zombies map he worked on. He was the one doing a lot of the story work for that, so it makes sense when he becomes the head of Zombies that he would route the storyline back to the map he started Zombies on. It just makes complete sense, and that way the story, even though it went wild with all of the alien stuff in Black Ops 3, it's still very much rooted in the foundations of World at War with Der Riese and the Nazi zombies experiments. So yeah, I really think this is the impossible Easter egg. It's groundbreaking information, and I really think when we solve the books on the Eisendrache, which I honestly don't think will be solved anytime soon because John Dee ciphers are very, very hard, and the same with the Revelation ciphers. I think at least some of them will be about John Dee and Edward Kelly and how John Dee really became Monty. You know, that's the big question right now. Everything kind of makes sense. We don't really know about the first one, but the big thing that doesn't make sense is how they actually became these people. Now, I've got a theory, which I'll be talking about in a video, that they both drank liquid divinium, but it killed one and caused the other one to become immortal. Different effects for each of them. It caused one to ascend above reality, one to descend and become corrupted by the dark ether. So I'll be talking about that in the Cycles video that I have coming up. But yeah, there's been so many weird coincidences whilst making this video. All of the clues that we found in game just happened by mere luck. Mere luck. And all of these weird things that I've just mentioned to you, completely weird. And you know, the video was literally 1 hour and 15 minutes. I just got here at 1:15. That was complete luck as well. Like, I literally never even planned that. I was actually meant to set off way earlier in the day, but I was just, you know, getting flustered and procrastinating before leaving. What are the odds of that? That is just wild. And there's also been some weird personal coincidences whilst making the video, which I won't get into, but there's been some other weird things literally whilst making the video. I heard something bang in my bathroom, and then the next day we realized there's a massive rip now in our shower curtain, so we've had to bin that, and there's no sign of anything falling or anything causing the rip, so I don't know how that happened. Is John Dee haunting us? I do not know. And was he trying to prevent the video getting out? I have no idea. Now, I do not believe in this sort of higher dimension stuff, but it really makes this video feel like it was destined to happen and there was divine intervention, because what are the odds I even live close to here is absolutely wild. I do think these things are probably just a coincidence, but it definitely has been really weird to experience. It's felt very otherworldly, very supernatural, but my logic is telling me obviously it's probably all just coincidence, but it's just a wild coincidence if that, because like I say, if one thing happened differently, I wouldn't be sat here right now in this graveyard, in this churchyard. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't have made the video. Literally, if Codlawfax never told me about this document, I wouldn't have realized Monty was John Dee. Gotta love the plane going up. And literally how we discovered all of the evidence, like I say, was just weird luck. We really shouldn't have found all of this out. Now, honestly, I would have liked for part 1 and part 2 to not be separate and it just be one video, but part 1 was already deep into production when we started discovering all of the clues. That's pretty much undeniable evidence that Monty is John Dee, and it was too late to cancel that video and then sort of rework it into the second one, because I think the first part doesn't really hit hard. It makes you think, you know, maybe this is the impossible Easter egg, but it's not hard hitting enough. Part 2 is where the real strong evidence is. Part 1's mainly just about the leak. So yeah, I would have liked for it all to be one video, but I think it turned out better this way and it feels more organic. And what's even crazier is literally whilst part 1 was in production, I stepped foot in this churchyard by pure coincidence, pure luck. I was just walking across the river. I've walked past here about 5 times in my life. I've lived here, like I said, for about a year and never once stepped foot in. For some reason, whilst that video was being worked on, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go in because it's pretty. And I was walking in and we realized there was a funeral going on. So who I was with just said, you know, we probably shouldn't go in, and then we walked out. But what's the odds, whilst I was making this video, is the one time after the whole year I've lived here to feel compelled to go in. It's just so weird. And what's even crazier, in 2016 there was actually some secret skulls discovered on one of Queen Elizabeth I's art, because obviously John Dee was an occultist for her, and obviously that was when the Eisendrache released and when Black Ops 3 Zombies' DLC was releasing, and it makes me think Blundell probably saw that. If he was interested in John Dee, he probably saw this, and Black Ops 3 Zombies' DLC was heavy into production. So it makes me think, are there any images hiding certain things in a similar fashion in the game? That's one other possible idea for how it could tie into the impossible Easter egg, because I think the impossible Easter egg isn't just the book's cipher on the Eisendrache. I think it's all of the clues that I've discovered in the game towards Monty being John Dee. I think there's way more clues in the game, and the books are the main one. The book cipher is definitely the main one. However, I think it's scattered throughout arenas, just as Blundell said, and there's not ever really going to be a day where we can say the Easter egg is fully solved, because there's probably always going to be way more clues to discover. We still have, you know, 10 Revelation ciphers to discover. We still have one on Garod Krovi, I think maybe one on the Giant, and there's some others as well. I can't remember them all off the top of my head. And we have the book cipher to solve, and I think there's probably way more secret ciphers in the game similar to the book's one that are not obvious ciphers. They're not just a scrap of paper that you find on the map and it's an obvious cipher. There's probably other ones hidden in the menus, hidden in the art for the game, hidden in the actual maps themselves, if you piece them together, similar to how you can piece together the books to try and form something. Now, a criticism that I have seen of the video, and I can understand it, is that it's a shame that this Easter egg got solved through a leak, and people think, well, we wouldn't have solved it any other way if it wasn't for a leak. And honestly, that might be true. We may have never, or we may never, solve the John Dee cipher on Der Eisendrache. I personally think we will. I don't think anytime soon, but I think we will solve it eventually, especially now there's a lot more eyes on it thanks to the leak. However, I think that the criticism is only rooted partially in truth. For one, obviously I didn't leak it myself. It was posted by Nanakos over on Twitter, and, you know, many different people have then been looking into the files. And two, I think that this video just came about by pure coincidence. Like I said, Codlawfax let me know about this document mentioning the story of John Dee in Treyarch's files, and we were going to work on a completely different video, a much more basic video. And then it just started spiraling out of control. We started discovering all of these clues in the game, and it was so much fun. It felt like a normal Easter egg hunt. It felt like we were discovering all of this stuff on our own in a crazy way. Yes, the leak pointed us in the right direction, but we still found all of the clues in the game and the parallels towards John Dee's real life on our own accord. None of that was in the leak. You know, the leak does not even spell out that Monty is John Dee. It's not even said in the leak. However, we just sort of sussed it out through all of the evidence that we figured out. And in that way, I think that the revelation of Monty being John Dee comes across just as shockingly as a cipher solve, if not more shockingly, because you have to think about it. Let's say we solve the Derision Drive book cipher and it just outright says Monty is John Dee, or at least words to that effect. I personally think that wouldn't be that shocking. We would look at that and we'd be like, oh, that's cool information, and then we would start retroactively looking in the game for all of the clues. However, I think it's actually more interesting to discover this the other way around, where we don't know for sure Monty is John Dee. We think he might be, and then we start looking in the game for clues, because as we were uncovering all of these clues, it became very obvious and we were just mind blown, absolutely mind blown. I think everyone watching the video, at first in the video I have a narration of the document, so people are like, okay, this is interesting, but then I start going into the clues and then the penny drops and that becomes mind blowing. And I think if the cipher was solved first, it wouldn't be as shocking in my personal opinion, or at the very least it would come across just as shocking. So personally, I think that the revelation for the community is still just as wild, regardless of whether this was done by a leak or not. And at the same time, there's still so much left to discover. Like I said, we still have all of the other ciphers in the game, especially on Revelations, which I think will give more information about how all of this makes sense and give us probably a true perspective of the zombies timeline, which I think is somewhat misleading. I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I'll talk about this in the next video, the cycles video, but I think that the Canorium isn't necessarily wrong. It's just mitigating information, important information. And I'll explain how it can all still make sense and still mean that the Canorium is right. It's just a much simpler explanation of reality, which I think the Canorium simplifies things in general throughout the entire timeline, so it makes sense. So yeah, personally, I think that regardless of whether this was a leak or not, I think this is an amazing thing for the community and so fun for the community. And I'm not just saying that because I made it, but just judging from the feedback in the comments for the video and just my own personal opinions of how excited it made me discovering all of this stuff. It was so much fun, and it really makes me appreciate Black Ops 3 Zombies so much more. You know, with the hard drive leak, I've been going back to Black Ops 3 Zombies and looking through all of these developer documents, and it's brought so much new life to the game. And you know, this is a rare scenario where I think the leaks are actually helping somewhat in understanding the lore and sort of reinvigorating a game that released literally almost 10 years ago now. And I love that people still care so much about Black Ops 3 Zombies. It really holds a special place in my heart, and discovering this impossible Easter egg and discovering all of the other stuff from the hard drive makes me really appreciate it so much more, so much more. And you guys seem to be loving it in the comments, as well as the reception for the video seems to be so much higher than Black Ops 3. So I really think Black Ops 3 Zombies we'll still be talking about it in 10, 20 years now, because it's already been a decade and we're still so invested in the game, not just because of custom zombies, but still regarding the storyline and, you know, the old secrets and cut content that we've been finding. People are still very excited for this game, and I think it holds a special place in the zombies community, and I don't think any other game will get near this level. I think there's still Easter eggs left in Black Ops 4 Zombies, maybe not in the latter maps because they were rushing them out due to problems and them having to work on Cold War Zombies as well last second. So I think Black Ops 4 still has some stuff to find, but honestly, I don't think any other game, there might be one or two little things, but I don't think any other game has that much depth as Black Ops 3, where, you know, we're still able to discover mind-blowing things that completely change the perspective of the game all these years later, like we're doing with Black Ops 3. I don't think the same can be said. You know, maybe Black Ops 4, like I said, the early maps, Blood of the Dead, Classified, I think might have more to them, but I don't know about the rest. And I just find this whole situation absolutely bonkers. The fact that we were researching into this occultist who spoke to angels, and throughout the video there's been so many weird things, as if someone's been trying to prevent the video from getting released, as well as there's been weird coincidences that make it seem like the video was always meant to happen, such as me living so close, make it seem like there was opposing forces. You know, one force, the Apothecans trying to stop the video from getting out, one force, maybe the Keepers, trying to actually get the video going out. So yeah, it's been such an odd thing, and it's felt very weird discovering all of these clues, but it's been so exciting. And honestly, it has been getting a little bit boring making the same old generic zombies videos over and over again, and this video has felt so fresh to me and brought so much new life. And I have way more Black Ops 3 videos coming up, so I can't wait for you to see all of them, and way more parts from this one as well. For those of you who are thinking that the impossible Easter egg is done with, it absolutely is not. Like I said, there's still so many more ciphers in the game. We still have to solve the Derision Drac book cipher itself. There's probably way more secret ciphers that we need to find. Whilst we might know the impossible Easter egg is about John Dee and Monty, we still do not know the bigger picture. There's still some holes and plot holes in the storyline that we need to figure out by discovering the parallels between Monty and John Dee's real life, and we need to figure them out on our own, and we need to solve all of these other other ciphers in game to hopefully make better sense of everything, and there's probably way more to discover. So this isn't the end. Like I said in the impossible Easter egg video, I believe that it's an unraveling of information. It's like pulling a ball of string that never ends, because the impossible Easter egg is timeless. It is impossible, as Jason said. We're not ever supposed to solve it, although I said in the title it's solved. That's because this is the big revelation. I mean, that's the best way to title it, to get the maximum views, obviously. And I do think it's, partially solved, but I think that there's still so much left to discover that it can never be truly solved. We'll always be finding out more information about how this all makes sense, and hopefully that makes sense to you. Anyways, I've been rambling for a very long time, so I think I'm going to actually go in the church and find the plaque of John Dee. Like I said, he doesn't have an official grave here because it's literally missing, as well as the record. But I'm just going to go in. I won't actually talk whilst I'm in there, obviously, to be respectful, but I'll have a little peek inside, and yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I know it's been very rambly, but it just gives a bit of insight towards the behind the scenes of actually making this video, and explains my perspective a little bit better, a bit different, so it might be a bit scuffed. Probably if you watch other vloggers, they probably do a much better job, but yeah, it's very hard for me to stay focused.
Dee realized that these forces exploiting the ether were perverting the course of nature, and with royal decree, he established the esoteric brotherhood of de-resurrectionists in order to study the ether and to guard against any future horrors that might emerge from it. The society has made great strides in its research, able to harness the energy of the ether to its own ends, even if rumor is to be trusted, able to harness it for travel to remote times and places unseen by human eyes. Under the watchful care of the mysterious Man of Shadows, who may in fact be John Dee, made immortal by experiments carried out by the Order in London in the winter of 1608, the Brotherhood seek to safeguard all of creation from the monsters unleashed upon neighboring realities by the incessant warring of the powerful entities within the void.
Okay, so I just went in, and as you saw, I went to John Dee's plaque. It is a shame that they don't disclose, or at least they don't know where John Dee actually is buried, but somewhere in and amidst this grounds. But yeah, it's been pleasant coming here. I think it's been very interesting. Honestly, apart from arriving at 115, with how many weird things have happened throughout this video, I was expecting something crazy to either go wrong or some sort of weird heavenly coincidence to occur, but we'll have to see if I can actually even get this video out, and if I ever need to return here for any reason, considering you know, I'm going to be making lots more videos about the impossible Easter egg and Monty and John Dee. I can always easily come back, which is wild. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Let me know in the comments if you want to see any more in real life videos in the future. I've thought about going to real life zombies map locations in the past, but for the most part, most people have already done them all. There are some that people haven't done, so I want to do something that's original, you know? And there's never really been much of a need apart from when I went to actually visit the real life inspiration for Doctor Monty's house all those years ago, which I think ties a bow nicely towards discovering his true identity. I'm just crossing the road now, let's hope I don't die. But yeah, what are the odds that the only one time I actually visited something in real life to do with zombies, it was literally where Monty supposedly lives. In terms of when John Dee's house, we don't know. It's somewhere, he lives somewhere around here, but we don't actually know, and probably the remnants of his house no longer even exist, since obviously he lived during Queen Elizabeth I's time, so it's a very long time ago. But yeah, the royals were into some funky stuff back then. John Dee even tried predicting how long her reign would be, which is why she kept him on, and he got accused of witchcraft and you know, working for the devil and all of these things, which kind of explains why the Shadow Man says Monty's been known by many names, such as Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, etc., because that's probably what all of his dissenters would call him or accuse him of. And in fact, even the God Cravey Easter egg song says he's been known by many names, but only one is real. And that's one of the pieces of new evidence that I'm going to go into in this future video. There's been a lot found. Not that we needed any more, because I think the evidence presented in my initial video was already enough evidence, but it just further solidifies it for the very, very few people who are not believers. And yeah, I think that this was such a fun Easter egg for Jason Blundell and whoever else was involved to implement in the game. I think that this is the best possible thing the impossible Easter egg could have been, because, you know, he even said in an interview it's not going to be groundbreaking. Now, I don't know if that was just sort of teasing regarding a hint towards what it would be. For example, the Panzers or the Magwas shaking when they come in, or whether it was teasing the fact that when the universe is fractured, I assume the ground probably shook whilst the Thames froze, and maybe that was a hint towards the fractures. We don't know what he was thinking when he said that, but if you take it at face value, you would think the impossible Easter egg wouldn't be any major new information, but it really is. From what we've discovered, it seems like it changes everything, literally everything. And when people make entire zombie storyline videos in the future, I don't know whether they're going to include this or whether they're going to exclude this, because technically it's not official, even though it's heavily implied. So I don't know if they're just going to stick to what's official. And when I make my updated entire zombie storyline video, which is, you know, obviously the last one I did is almost 10 hours, so when I do that, I don't know if I'm going to include this or not. It's really hard to say, because probably for a new viewer who hasn't seen these videos, when they watch it, they're just going to be confused as to what I'm on about. So it's a hard one. There's been all of these canoe races on the Thames whilst coming here, which, yeah, it's crazy how this all connects. And like I said, there's still some puzzle pieces missing. We still don't know how the London newspapers, for example, tie into things, because I speculated there might have been a zombie outbreak when the Thames froze and Monty ascended to God of the Keepers. However, newspapers weren't around when he supposedly died. They were around only decades later, so it's still in the right century, but they also didn't have the ability to take photographs either. Now, this could just be a mistake on Treyarch's part, maybe. Maybe they were planning a London map that got cut, or maybe even turned into Dead of Night. We don't really know. So there's definitely some things that don't make sense that we're still going to have to suss out. But yeah, I think that's going to conclude this video, and part 3 and 4 coming out very soon. Like I said, a huge series basically I'm going to make of this, and if I don't ever need to go back, I can easily do so. I think that would be so wild if the impossible Easter egg made you actually hunt things in real life. Obviously, I don't think Jason Blundell has planned anything like that, especially not all of these years later. Maybe if he was still director at Treyarch, he could have some sort of real life Easter egg set up to make the community hunt for, but considering it's been all of these years later, there's no way he could have established that. But I think it would be so fun. Like, imagine if I just turned up at the church today and Blundell's waiting there, or there's some sort of other Easter egg to discover in real life that then sends me to another location or something. Kind of similar to what Mr. Offwaffles has been doing with the stuff leading up to Black Ops 6's release with, I remember the name of it. But yeah, something similar to that Easter egg hunt he was doing in real life, which eventually led him to go into Harper's Ferry, the real life location of Liberty Falls. I think if Treyarch did something like that themselves, it would be so much fun. But yeah, I guess I'll conclude it now at the very place where the zombie storyline began, basically. And the fact that I live so close is just wild. Like I said, this video is quite literally impossible. Okay, so I'm just walking back as I pass another church here, and I just realized I completely forgot to mention something in the video, but John Dee and Kelly's stone seal of God, which are what the Apothecarian rituals are based on, is actually held in the British Museum, obviously here in London as well. Now, I did think about traveling into the centre to just film that for a video, but I figured what would be the point? It would literally only be a couple minutes of the video, and I have been to the British Museum many times, so I probably looked at it without even realizing. But yeah, it is interesting that it's there. I've seen a few people in the comments, mention that they have seen it and they just didn't realize. And there's other little artifacts and objects of John Dee and Kelly scattered across various different museums, not in London, other places of the world. I think there's like some in France and stuff. Obviously they did travel across Europe during a point in time, but yeah, that's interesting.
374, go!